I knew something was wrong the second my father, Richard, refused to look me in the eye. We were all in the living room, my mother Elaine, my younger brother Caleb, and me. The same room where I had handed over every paycheck for the past 4 years, believing I was investing in my future. I was still holding the envelope from the bank. My name wasn't on the property. Not once. I don't understand, I said, my voice shaking. There has to be a mistake. My mother sighed like I was a burden. There's no mistake. That's when Caleb finally spoke, leaning back like he owned the place. Because it's in my name. The words didn't make sense. Not at first. My brain rejected them. I laughed. A dry, broken sound. Stop joking. I'm not joking, he said, calm, almost bored. I turned to my father. Tell him to stop. Richard rubbed his face. You need to calm down, Aaron. Calm down. I felt something crack inside me. I paid for this house, I said. Every month. Every repair. Every. And we're grateful. My mother cut in. But this was always the plan. The room spun. What plan? I whispered. No one answered. And that silence told me everything. They had planned this. All of it. Behind my back. For years. I looked at Caleb. He wouldn't even meet my eyes now. That's when I realized something worse than betrayal. This wasn't sudden. This was deliberate. And I had just walked straight into it. I dropped the envelope. And for the first time in my life, I saw my family for what they really were. I didn't leave. Not right away. Because a part of me still believed there had to be an explanation. Something that made this less cruel. There's paperwork, I said, forcing the words out. There has to be something with my name on it. Caleb smirked slightly. That small movement made my stomach turn. There is paperwork, he said. You just didn't read it properly. I froze. What does that mean? My father stepped in, his tone turning firm. You signed an agreement when you started contributing. I signed something saying I was helping the family. I shot back. Not giving everything away. My mother folded her arms. It's the same thing. No, it wasn't. I could feel it now, the way they were twisting words, rewriting history right in front of me. You told me I was building equity, I said. You said this would be mine one day. Elaine didn't even blink. We said you'd benefit. My chest tightened. That's when Caleb leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You lived here, didn't you? He said. You ate here. You had a roof over your head. I stared at him. So that's what this is? I asked. Rent. No, he said, smiling faintly. It's family. That word family felt like poison. Because now I understood. They didn't see me as someone to support. They saw me as someone to use. And what happens now? I asked quietly. My father hesitated. But Caleb didn't. You move out, he said. I'm planning to renovate. The room went silent. That was it. 4 years of sacrifice reduced to a renovation plan. I nodded slowly. Not because I agreed, but because something inside me had shifted. And they didn't notice. Not yet. I packed in silence. No one tried to stop me. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. But how easy it was for them to let me go. My room, if I could even call it that anymore, looked smaller than I remembered. Like it had already stopped belonging to me. I folded my clothes methodically, trying to keep my hands steady. From downstairs, I could hear laughter. Caleb, of course. I paused, just for a second, because I wanted to go down there. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, to make them feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. People like them don't feel guilt. They justify, they rewrite, they move on. So I zipped my bag instead. When I came downstairs, no one looked surprised. Leaving already? My mother asked casually. I nodded. My father cleared his throat. This doesn't have to be dramatic, Aaron. Dramatic. I almost laughed. Caleb didn't say anything. He just watched me, like he was waiting for something. Maybe he expected me to beg. I didn't. I walked to the door, my hand hovering over the handle. Then I turned. Why him? I asked. That was the one question I needed answered. My mother didn't hesitate. Because he needs it more. I held her gaze. And in that moment, I understood everything. This was never about fairness. It was about favoritism. Always had been. I opened the door and stepped out into the cold night. With nothing. Except one thought. They think I'm finished. They're wrong. The first night was the hardest. I slept in my car. Not because I had no options, but because I couldn't bring myself to ask anyone for help yet. Pride maybe. Or shock. Or both. I stared at the ceiling of my car, replaying everything over and over again. Every conversation. Every promise. Every lie. By morning something had changed. The pain was still there, but it had sharpened. Focused. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't hoping for answers. I knew exactly what had happened. They used me, and they thought I'd stay broken. That was their mistake. I called my friend Marcus that morning. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Come over." That was the first real kindness I'd felt in days. Sitting in his small apartment drinking cheap coffee, I finally said it out loud. They took everything from me. Marcus leaned back, studying me. "No," he said. "They took what you gave them." I frowned. That's not the same thing. It didn't feel the same. But his words stuck with me. Because if I gave it, then maybe I could rebuild it. Better. Smarter. Stronger. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not to that house. Not to that version of myself. I would start over. From nothing if I had to. And this time, I'd make sure no one could take it from me again. A week later, I went through my old documents. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand how they did it. That's when I found it. The agreement. The one my father mentioned. I read it once, then twice, then a third time, and slowly, the truth started to reveal itself. It wasn't a normal contract. It was vague, carefully worded, full of phrases that could mean different things depending on how you read them. But one line stood out. All contributions are considered voluntary family support without claim of ownership. My stomach dropped. They planned this from the start. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was strategy. And then I noticed something else. The signature date didn't match my memory. Not even close. I leaned back, my mind racing. Had they changed it? That thought hit me like a shockwave. Because if they had, this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was something bigger. Something dangerous. I grabbed my phone. And for the first time since I left, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I had something they didn't expect. A thread. And I was about to pull it. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I started watching, listening, digging. Because if they were capable of this, what else were they hiding? I contacted the bank. Asked for records, dates, copies, anything. At first, it felt like nothing. Just numbers and paperwork. But patterns started to form. Payments redirected. Accounts I didn't recognize. Names that didn't belong. Including one that made me pause. Caleb. But not just him. There was another account linked to the property. Joint access. I stared at the screen. Because that account wasn't mine. And it wasn't my parents'. So who was it? That question kept me up that night. Because it meant one thing. There was more to this than I thought. And whatever it was, they had gone to great lengths to hide it. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling again. But this time I wasn't lost. I was thinking, planning. Because now I wasn't just the victim. I was something else. Someone they hadn't prepared for. And I was getting closer. I finally got my answer from someone unexpected. My Aunt Diane. She wasn't close to my parents, but she knew enough. When I told her everything, she went quiet. Too quiet. What? I asked. She hesitated. Then sighed. They were in debt, she said. My heart skipped. What kind of debt? The kind you don't tell your children about. Everything clicked at once. The house. The pressure. The urgency. They needed money, I said slowly. And you were the only one who could provide it, she replied. And Caleb? She gave me a look. He was their backup plan. I frowned. What does that mean? It means they never believed you'd stay, she said. So they put everything in his name. Just in case. Just in case. Those 3 words hit harder than anything else. I wasn't just used. I was replaceable. Disposable. That's not all, Diane added. I looked at her. There were arguments, she said. Big ones. About who deserved what. I already knew the answer to that. But hearing it confirmed. It burned. So they chose him, I said. She nodded. Yes. I sat back. Silent. Because now I understood their reason. Not that it made it better. But it made it clearer. This wasn't just greed. It was fear. Control. Favoritism. And I had been the easiest one to sacrifice. But now, I wasn't so easy anymore. That night I made a choice. Not out of anger, but clarity. I wasn't going to chase them for what they took. I was going to build something they could never touch. I doubled my work hours. Took on projects no one else wanted. Saved every cent. Marcus thought I was pushing too hard. Take a break, he said. I can't, I replied, because every second mattered now. Not for revenge, but for control. I needed to be in a position where no one could ever do this to me again. And slowly, it started to work. Opportunities opened. Connections grew. And for the first time since everything happened, I felt something different. Not pain, not anger, power. But just as things started to stabilize, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Aaron? I froze. I knew that voice. Caleb. I think we need to talk, he said. And just like that, the past came rushing back. I almost hung up. Every instinct told me to. But something stopped me. Why? I asked. There was a pause on the other end. Things aren't how you think, Caleb said. I let out a short laugh. Really? Because it seemed pretty clear when you told me to move out. That wasn't my decision, he said quickly. I went silent, because that wasn't what I expected. What are you talking about? Another pause. Then, they're losing the house. My grip tightened on the phone. What? They can't keep up with the payments, he said. And now it's all under my name. I stood up, heart racing. So fix it, I said. Isn't that what you wanted? You don't understand, he snapped. I can't. That's when it hit me. He wasn't calling to apologize. He was calling because he needed something. From me. And suddenly, the power shifted. I can't help you, I said. Felt strange. Saying no. Caleb exhaled sharply. You owe us. I laughed. Actually laughed. No, I said. I don't. There was anger in his voice now. You think you're better than us? No, I replied calmly. I just finally see you. That silence again. But this time, it was different. Because now he was the one without control. If you don't help, he said, we'll lose everything. I thought about that. Really thought about it. Because part of me still cared. Still remembered the family we used to be. But that part was fading. You already lost everything, I said. And then I hung up. My hands were shaking. But not from fear. From something else. Closure. Or maybe the beginning of something bigger. They didn't stop calling. My mother. My father. Even messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. All saying the same thing. Family helps family. I ignored them. Until one message caught my attention. From my father. You don't know the full story. I stared at it. Because that was the second time I'd heard that. First from Caleb. Now from him. Which meant there was something else. Something they hadn't told me. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Because now I was curious. And careful. Because if there was more, I needed to know what it was. Before I made my next move. They showed up unannounced. At Marcus's apartment. All 3 of them. I opened the door and froze. Because I had never seen them like this before. Worried. Desperate. Human. We need to talk, my mother said. I stepped aside. Not because I trusted them. But because I wanted answers. Real ones. We sat in silence for a moment. Then my father spoke. We made mistakes. I didn't react. Big ones, he added. I crossed my arms. Start talking. And for the first time, they did. What they told me changed everything, but not in the way they hoped. There's a lien on the house, my father admitted. My stomach tightened. A legal one. I looked at Caleb. He looked away. What kind of lien? I asked. My mother hesitated, then said it. One tied to a business. That failed. I felt the room shift, because now we weren't just talking about money. We were talking about something deeper, something hidden. And you put it all under his name? I asked. Yes, my father said quietly. To protect ourselves. I stared at them. And sacrifice me. No one answered, because they didn't need to. I already knew. But then my father said something else. Something that changed everything. You're still connected to it. My heart dropped. What do you mean? He met my eyes. Your name is still on parts of the original financial chain. The room went silent, because now, this wasn't just their problem anymore. It was mine, and I had no idea how deep this went. I didn't say yes, but I didn't walk away either. That was my first mistake. What do you mean I'm still connected? I asked, keeping my voice steady. My father leaned forward, hands clasped tight. Some of the earlier financial documents, before we transferred things fully to Caleb, your name was used as a supporting contributor. That's not what you said before, I replied. I know, he admitted. That alone told me everything. More lies, layered on top of older lies. So what does that mean for me? I asked. It means, my mother said carefully, if the bank pushes further, they could look into everyone involved in the original structure. My chest tightened. So I'm at risk, I said. Caleb finally spoke, his voice quieter than before. We all are. No, that wasn't true. They made choices. I was dragged into them. I stood up, pacing. Why didn't you tell me this from the start? Because we thought we could fix it, my father said, before it got this bad. But it did get this bad. I snapped. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then my mother said something that shifted everything again. We need your help to untangle it. There it was. The real reason they came. Not guilt. Not regret. Need. I stopped pacing and looked at them. Really looked. For the first time, they weren't in control. And for the first time, I had a choice. Help them. Or let everything collapse. I took a slow breath. I'll listen, I said. Not because I trusted them, but because I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. And how far this damage really went. They brought documents. Stacks of them. More than I expected. More than I wanted. I sat at Marcus's kitchen table, flipping through pages filled with numbers, signatures, and legal language that felt intentionally confusing. This isn't simple, I said. No, my father admitted. It hasn't been for a long time. That line stuck with me. For a long time. Meaning this didn't start 4 years ago. It started much earlier. You've been hiding this for years, I said. My mother didn't deny it. We were trying to recover, she said. At my expense. She looked down. That was answer enough. Then I saw it. A document with my name tied to an earlier financial guarantee. My signature. But the context. It didn't match what I remembered. You told me this was just a formality, I said, holding it up. It was, my father said quickly. No, I replied. It wasn't, because now I could see it clearly. They didn't just use my money. They used my trust to build something unstable, and then they shifted the risk onto Caleb until it all started falling apart. How bad is it? I asked. No one answered right away. Then Caleb spoke. We could lose everything, he said. I nodded slowly, because now I understood the scale. This wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about everything tied to it. And for the first time, I realized something important. If I handled this right, I wouldn't just walk away. I would walk away free, while they faced the consequences. I'm not fixing this for you, The words landed hard. My mother flinched slightly. My father's jaw tightened. Caleb just stared at me. I'll protect myself, I continued. That's it. That's selfish, my mother said immediately. I met her gaze. No, I said calmly. What you did was selfish. That shut her up. For once, my father leaned forward. If you walk away completely, you could still be affected. I know, I said. That's why I'm not walking away blindly. I tapped the documents. I'm going to understand every part of this. Legally. Properly. And then what? Caleb asked. I looked at him. Then I make sure I'm not tied to your mistakes. There was a long pause, because they could hear it now. I wasn't the same person they manipulated before. I wasn't reacting emotionally anymore. I was thinking, strategically. And us? My mother asked softly. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was simple, but hard. That depends on what happens next, I said, which wasn't the answer she wanted. But it was the only one she was getting, because this time, I wasn't playing their game. I was setting my own rules, and they were no longer at the center of them. I met with a legal advisor. Alone. No family. No pressure. Just facts. After reviewing everything, he leaned back and said something that changed everything again. You were misled. I nodded. I figured. No, he said. I mean legally misled. That hit differently. Explain. He pointed to multiple documents. These were presented to you under false pretenses. The intent behind them doesn't match the explanation you were given. So I'm not responsible? I asked. Not in the way they are, he said. But you are connected enough that you need to formally separate yourself. Relief hit me, but it was controlled, measured, because I wasn't done yet. What about them? I asked. He didn't hesitate. If this escalates, they're exposed. How bad? He paused, then said it clearly. Severe financial consequences. Possibly more. I leaned back, because now I finally had clarity. Not assumptions. Not guesses. Facts. They shifted risk onto you and your brother to protect themselves, he added. But they didn't remove the original chain properly, meaning their plan was flawed from the start, and now it was collapsing. I stood up, gathering the documents. Can I get out clean? I asked. Yes, he said. How? He met my eyes. By doing this the right way. I nodded, because that's exactly what I was going to do. No shortcuts. No revenge tactics. Just truth. And structure. And for the first time since all of this began, I knew something for certain. I was going to be okay. They weren't. I filed the paperwork. Every form. Every request. Every correction. Took time. Patience. Precision. But I did it. Properly. When I told my family, the reaction was immediate. You're cutting yourself off? My father asked. I'm protecting myself, I replied. That leaves us exposed, my mother said. I didn't respond, because that was the point. Caleb stepped forward. You're just going to watch us fall? I looked at him, and for a moment, I saw the same confidence he had in chapter 1. But now it was gone, replaced with fear. You made your choices, I said. And you didn't? He snapped. No, I replied. I trusted mine. That silence again. But this time, it was heavy with truth. Because deep down, they knew I was right. I'm not hurting you, I added. I'm just not saving you. And that difference mattered. Because I wasn't acting out of revenge. I was acting out of clarity. And that made all the difference. The bank followed up faster than expected. Requests, questions, reviews. Everything was being examined now. Every transaction, every document, every decision. My father called me late one night. They're digging into everything, he said. I know, I replied. You triggered this. No, I said calmly. You did. I just stopped protecting it. Silence. They're asking about earlier structures, he added. Of course they were. Because once systems crack, they don't stop at the surface. They go deeper. What did you tell them? I asked. The truth, he said. I paused, because that was new. Good, I replied. But even as I said it, I knew something. The truth wasn't going to save them. It was going to expose them. And this time, there was no one left to shift the blame onto. It didn't happen all at once. It happened in pieces. Missed payments, frozen accounts, denied extensions. Every safety net they thought they had started disappearing. Caleb called again. But this time, there was no attitude, no arrogance. "They're taking it," he said quietly. I closed my eyes for a second, because despite everything, it still hit. "The house?" I asked. "Everything tied to it," he replied. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. "I'm sorry," he added. That was new. Too late, but real. "I know," I said, and I meant it, because at this point, apologies didn't change outcomes. Actions did, and theirs had already set everything in motion. "I didn't think it would end like this," he said. I looked out the window. Neither did I. But here we were, and there was no going back. I stopped answering calls, not out of anger, but necessity, because I had done everything I needed to do. I had separated myself, protected myself, moved forward. Getting pulled back in now would only drag me down again. Marcus noticed the shift. "You're done, aren't you?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah," I said, and for the first time, felt true. Not forced, not defensive, just finished. But even then, I knew one thing. This story wasn't over yet, because consequences take time to fully land. I heard it through relatives, then confirmed it myself. The house was gone, reclaimed. Everything tied to it collapsed with it. My parents had to downsize, drastically. Caleb moved out completely, starting over, just like I did. The difference? I wasn't forced into it. I chose it. And that made all the difference. Because one path builds strength. The other teaches it too late. The final reports came in, detailed, unavoidable. Every decision my parents made, documented. Every risk they shifted, recorded. There was no more hiding, no more rewriting, just truth. And consequences. They didn't just lose the house. They lost their credibility, their stability, their control. Everything they tried to protect was gone, because they built it on something fragile. And now it had finally broken. I didn't get the house. I didn't get the money back. But I got something more valuable. Freedom, clarity, control. I built my own place, my own stability, my own future. No hidden terms, no manipulation, just mine. And that meant more than anything they ever took. If you're watching this, learn from me, not just the pain, but the pattern. Not everyone who calls you family treats you like it, and trust, without understanding, can cost you everything. But losing everything can also show you exactly who you are, and who you're not. They thought they broke me. They thought I'd beg. They thought I'd stay small. They were wrong, because I didn't just walk away. I rebuilt, stronger, smarter, untouchable. And this time, no one owns what I've built, except me.